Stevie Wonder was born blind but with a natural talent for music that began to blossom when she was 8 years old. She went on to become an extraordinary artist. Stevie had 25 Grammy Awards by 2016, and he had a Billboard Hot 100 #1 when he was only 13 years old. U.S. President Barack Obama presented an award to the Isn't She Lovely singer, who was also feted internationally. Despite his public success and impressive accomplishments, there is a tragic aspect to his personal life that is under-discussed. But before we get into that chapter of his existence, let's review Wonder's origin story. The third of 5 children born to Lula Mae Hardaway and the second of Hardaway's 2 children with his dad, Steveland Hardaway Judkins, was born on May 13, 1950 in Saginaw, Michigan. Ralph Judkins. A tragic error on the part of the doctor during Stevie's delivery permanently impaired his vision. You see, Stevie had to spend his first 6 weeks of life in an incubator due to his preterm birth. But the doctor erred in administering too much oxygen, leading to retinopathy of prematurity, a condition that hinders eye function and frequently results in retinal detachment. Because of this one slip-up, infant Stevie will never see again. After Stevie's parents split up when he was 4 years old, his mom uprooted the family and settled them in Detroit. Whitestone Baptist Church was a sanctuary and source of inspiration for young Stevie, who sang in the choir there. His life-altering passion for music was kindled at this very moment, marking the beginning of his musical career. Stevie had exceptional talent beginning when he was just 8 years old. A self-taught musician, he could play the drums, harmonica, and piano. He and a friend got together to form a duo named Stevie and John, and they would play at neighborhood parties and on street corners. This was the first step toward a great musical career. Lonely Boy was Stevie Wonder's debut single, written when he was 11 years old in 1961. He gave a performance for the Miracles' Ronnie White, who was deeply impressed by Stevie's natural ability and distinctive voice. He was excited to be of service to the youngster since he saw he had great potential. White set up an audition for Stevie and his mom at Motown, where they met with CEO Berry Gordy. Like White, Gordy was so taken by Stevie's talent and personality that he signed him to Tamla, Motown's record company, without wasting any time. Clarence Paul, the producer, made a light-hearted reference to Stevie as the world's 8th wonder before the contract was even signed. Still, Stevie Wonder became the more memorable and iconic abbreviated form of the moniker. The unusual rolling 5-year contract was developed by Motown because of Stevie's youth. Until he turned 21, the deal promised to keep Stevie's royalties in trust, so he would be financially secure. While this was going on, Stevie and his mom were getting a weekly allowance. Stevie was paid $2.50 per week back then, which would be around $25.49 now after inflation. Even though it was only a small sum, it helped the family get by. To make sure Stevie's education didn't take a back seat to his traveling, Motown even paid for a private tutor so he could stay up with his schoolwork and hone his musical abilities. Clarence Paul, Stevie Wonder's producer and songwriter, encouraged him to hone his musical abilities. The early phases of Stevie's career were aided by Clarence Paul, who not only worked closely with him but also acted as a mentor. They collaborated for the first time on the album Tribute to Uncle Ray. Since Ray Charles was one of Stevie's major influences, the album was mostly a compilation of cover songs by Charles, which was recorded when Stevie was 11 years old. Sunset, an original song by Stevie and Clarence included on the album, demonstrated Stevie's extraordinary songwriting ability from an early age. Their subsequent endeavor was the instrumental CD The Jazz Soul of Little Stevie, which served to showcase Stevie's musical range and demonstrate his rapid growth within a relatively brief period. Clarence Paul wrote the majority of the music on this CD. Nevertheless, Stevie was a co-writer on 2 songs. Curious and Session 112, Stevie was able to learn from the greats around him, but these records also gave him the freedom to experiment and discover his own voice. People were eagerly awaiting Stevie's debut single as his self-assurance increased. Mother Thank You was supposed to be his debut album. The head of Motown, Berry Gordy, nevertheless chose a different path. Pretty music is what I call it, although the elders refer to it as the blues. We wanted to highlight Stevie's youthful enthusiasm and his talent for fusing musical styles, so we picked this song. With its summer 1962 release, the song came close to entering the Billboard Hot 100, reaching a peak of number 101. This was just one more indication to Wonder's management that he had great commercial potential as a musician. Stevie Wonder demonstrated it a little over 2 years later. Wonder became a member of the Motortown Revue at the year's end of 1962 and began performing in the Chitlin circuit, which consisted of black-friendly theaters around the United States. His 20-minute performance at Chicago's Regal Theater was captured on tape and released in May 1963 as the live CD, The 12-Year-Old Genius. That same month, Fingertips, one of the album's songs, was released. It would later become Stevie Wonder's first big hit, launching him to stardom. Wonder, at the tender age of 13, had her first #1 hit on the Billboard Hot 100 with this excellent song. As a result, Stevie Wonder became the youngest artist in chart history to reach #1 at that age. What made it even more remarkable was that it was the first time in music history that a track could reach the top of both the Hot 100 and the R&B chart at the same time. Unfortunately, Stevie would not release another hit for years after this. When Wonder's career took off after Little Fingers, no song he released in the following years could compare. Actually, nearly every single song he put out was a huge commercial failure. This was particularly true because as he aged, his voice changed, and with it, the distinctiveness for which he had been famous. Wonder was even considered having his recording contract canceled by some Motown officials so he could have a fresh start. Wonder knew he had to step up his hustling because he had one last chance to make it big before his career was snatched from him. Wonder and Moyes set to work, and Wonder saw results almost immediately. An instant smash, Uptight, Everything's Alright, was born from their collaboration. Wonder enjoyed a string of more mid-1960s successes following his revitalized triumph, featuring the Bob Dylan song Blowin' in the Wind and With a Child's Heart, which featured his mentor and producer Clarence Paul on vocals. In about the same time, he started penning songs for himself and his fellow label mates in Motown's songwriting department. His 1968 CD Ivette's Red, now Stevie Wonder spelled backwards, features instrumental soul jazz compositions with a focus on harmonica solos. Covering Alfie by Burt Bacharach and Hal David, the album's lone single peaked at number 11 on the U.S. adult contemporary charts and number 66 on the U.S. pop charts, indicating that it did not receive much attention. Nevertheless, he overcame this obstacle and achieved a string of successful singles from 1967 to 1970. One of these, signed, sealed, delivered, I'm Yours, was his first self-produced single. By 1970, Wonder was already thinking about methods to escape his record label. The first project he worked on was a hit single with the Spinners called It's a Shame, which he co-wrote and performed on numerous instruments. Stevie was at a crossroads with Motown, therefore the song's popularity was very significant. As he approached his 21st birthday, he felt a longing for greater creative independence, having been with the label since he was a child. He was able to use the song as bargaining chip with Berry Gordy of Motown to get more creative freedom, precisely as he had planned. Stevie C. opted to let his contract with Motown expire in May 1971 since it was about to expire. This would be a really bold move for many musicians, particularly those who are still so young. However, Stevie was prepared for a shift. He was not hesitant to ask for more creative freedom in his songs. An unprecedented new contract with Motown was signed in 1972 as a result of this choice. With the new arrangement came greater creative freedom and a larger royalty rate for Stevie, ushering in a new era in his career. Wonder released Talking Book later that year, featuring the legendary No One hit Superstition. You Are the Light in My Life was another top-charting single from the album. Stevie also chose to travel with the Rolling Stones so he could reach a wider audience and break away from being perceived as just an R&B singer. In addition to expanding his fan base, this tour was instrumental in the success of his singles Superstition and You Are the Sunshine of My Life, which together went on to win 3 Grammys. Yet Wonder had his share of difficulties on the road to legendhood, including a near-death experience. While performing in North Carolina on tour in 1973, Stevie Wonder suffered life-threatening injuries in a car accident on August 6th. After being involved in a car crash with a lorry, he spent 4 days in a coma. Because of the injury, he temporarily lost the ability to taste and lost part of his sense of smell. This was incredibly upsetting for the singer because, having been born blind, he had to learn to rely on his other senses to perceive his surroundings. But Stevie's tremendous tenacity and resolve have been constants in his life from the time he was a little boy. Months after his doctor had told him not to perform, Stevie's dedication to his community was evident. He made an appearance at a homecoming benefit in November 1973 in Raleigh, North Carolina, for Shaw University, a school that was going through tough financial times. Not only did Stevie perform while serving on the university's board of governors, but he also persuaded other musicians such as the Chambers Brothers, Exuma and LaBelle, to join the cause. Thanks to the concert's success, the school's scholarship fund received more than $10,000. Inspiringly, Stevie persisted in giving back despite facing personal obstacles. In the year that followed, Stevie went on a European tour, performing at venues such as the Rainbow Theatre in London, the Meetum Convention in Cannes in France, and Musikladen on German television. Concertgoers at his March 1974 sold-out return to the U.S. were enchanted by his high-energy performances and lengthy, deep improvisations, especially on songs like Living for the City. The venue was Madison Square Garden. Fulfilling this first finale, Stevie's album that year debuted later in July and shot up the charts. You Haven't Done Nothing, the album's lead single, and Boogie on Reggae Woman, the album's second single, were both huge hits. 3 Grammys, including Album of the Year, were bestowed upon him for his endeavors, cementing his status as a prominent musician. In 1974, Stevie joined John Lennon, Paul McCartney, and other former Beatles for a renowned jam session in Los Angeles. The result was the bootleg album A Toot and a Snore. His ex-wife Sarita writes, CD Stevie Wonder Presents Sarita was co-written and produced by him as well. 2 straight Grammys had already been won by the time Stevie was 25 years old. 2 in 1975 for fulfilling this first finale and 1 in 1974 for Inner Visions. He had such an impressive run of hits that in 1976, when Still Crazy After All These Years took home the Grammy for Album of the Year, Paul Simon made the amusing comment, "I'd like to thank Stevie Wonder, who didn't make an album this year." In the same year, Songs in the Key of Life was released by Stevie, an expansive double album that is often regarded as his masterwork. The album, which had both upbeat and reflective music, began and ended its run atop the Billboard charts. It was #1 for 14 weeks in a row. As he celebrated the birth of his daughter Aisha with the smash single Isn't She Lovely, 2 of his songs, I Wish and Sir Duke, reached #1. Songs like Love's in Need of Love Today and Village Ghetto Land delve into more profound societal issues on the album. Among many accolades, including Album of the Year and 2 more Grammys, Songs in the Key of Life is generally considered a classic of pop music and ranks 4 on Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest Albums list. And here we were, just scratching the surface. The following decade would see Stevie Wonder's accomplishments that would solidify his place in music history as one of the all-time greats. While enjoying enormous commercial success, Stevie Wonder persisted in developing her artistic vision. At the turn of the century, he released Stevie Wonder's Journey Through the Secret Life of Plants, an instrumental soundtrack that demonstrated his early forays into electronic music and digital production. During this time, Stevie was open to new sounds and tried out some sophisticated music samplers, which would later be used in his pioneering compositions. Hotter Than July, Stevie's first platinum-selling single album, was released around this time and was one of his major accomplishments. The album's lead song, Happy Birthday, was instrumental in Stevie Wonder's successful push to get Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday recognized as a national holiday. With the release of Stevie Wonder's original music Warium 1, a compilation featuring both old and new hits, Wonder kept pushing the envelope. Another worldwide hit was his duet with Paul McCartney on the racial harmony song Ebony and Ivory. An Academy Award-winning single, I Just Called to Say I Love You, was featured on the Woman in Red soundtrack album. Stevie continued to speak out for social justice despite political criticism for presenting the prize to Nelson Mandela, succeeding in having his anti-apartheid position recognized by the UN. Albums like In Square Circle, which had the #1 single Part-Time Lover, extended Stevie's mainstream success. He proved his adaptability and widespread popularity by working with a wide range of performers, including Chaka Khan and the Eurythmics. He continued to demonstrate his dedication to utilizing music for social good with his participation in philanthropic ventures like We Are the World. In the 1980s, Stevie Wonder did more than just make music. He also used his platform to speak out about social issues, leaving an indelible mark that continues to this day as a musical trailblazer and a champion for social justice. Behind the scenes, though, Stevie had a storm brewing in his private life that dwarfed his reputation and accomplishments. Even though he was legally blind, Stevie Wonder was a total charm with ladies. In addition to his charming nature, Wonder possessed a voice that could captivate any lady. Wonder has been married 3 times throughout his life. His first marriage occurred at the tender age of 21 in 1970. The 25-time Grammy winner is the father of 9 children by 5 different women. The majority of his offspring share his musical prowess. He wed a Motown singer-songwriter for a brief period in 1970 and 1972. Even after they split up, Sarita kept working with Stevie on her music, contributing to albums like Conversation Piece 1995. Kai Millard was Stevie's second husband. They were married from 2001 to 2012. Following their 2009 separation, Stevie sought a divorce in 2012. He wed for the 3rd time to Tamika Bracey in 2017. Even though the artist has a large family, his first daughter Aisha has been the center of attention from the time she was a little girl. Aisha Wonder was born in 1975 to Wonder and his then-partner Yolanda Simmons. She gained fame as the subject of her renowned father's song, Isn't She Lovely? Wonder used a recording of infant Aisha playing in the bath at the conclusion of the song. Although Aisha spent much of her childhood in New Jersey with her mother, she was there for many of her father's major life events, such as his 1996 Grammy Awards and Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction. Nevertheless, one of the most significant controversies in the entertainment world had its origins in Stevie's behavior with women. Angela McGaffey is the one who is entirely responsible for that. When Stevie initially expressed interest in Angela in 1986, the plot began to take shape. Stevie managed to persuade Angela to quit her job as a fashion consultant and relocate to his Los Angeles house in 1996, marking a turning point in their relationship. They understood each other. Angela would be in charge of the house and Stevie would be in charge of the money. But things became dicey for them in 1999 when Stevie met freelance art director Kai Millard at a New York nightclub. It was clear that Stevie was interested in Kai. Even though Kai was hesitant at first, they ended up spending the entire night conversing. Stevie and Kai became engaged in only 6 months, and they were married in September 2001. Angela found herself in a challenging situation due to this abrupt change. Stevie was married to Kai for just a month when Angela sued him for $30 million, claiming he secretly gave her herpes. In response, Stevie filed a separate complaint, asserting that upon their breakup, Angela had absconded with $160,000 worth of furnishings. The matter was subsequently resolved through mediation, the results of which were not disclosed. You could argue that even the most famous person in the world can become embroiled in a scandal from time to time.